Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Rowing Chat, the podcast for rowers that's been going since 2013. I'm Rebecca Caro, and today I am delighted to welcome an entire team from the Premier Rowing League. Hey, guys.
Hey.
How's it going?
So this is the very first time I think that I've had a focus entirely on a rowing erg competition as a topic for the podcast. So given that some of our listeners may not know anything about the Premier Rowing League, Chris, you're the group convener. Tell us about it. How did this all get going?
Yeah, so the guys from Rowers Choice, mainly Alex and CJ, kind of had this idea during COVID of creating this virtual erg competition with different teams from around the US. I think it started with 8 teams last year, maybe 10. And yeah, every week they would post a different piece that we were doing. They tried to keep it short and sort of entertaining and different distances than we typically do as rowers. Like 1K is 500, 2K, and kind of mix it up a little bit and give everybody something sort of different and keep us entertained throughout COVID. And that turned into season 2 this past year with fewer teams, kind of opened it up to not regional specific, and we had a live draft that we did, and it was pretty fun. So
just roll me back because I'm not from the US and I don't know how drafts work. How did people just put their names in a hat? How did you work it out?
So there was a sign up link, and I think there were close to 200 athletes that had signed up, and I don't know how. I think it was a random generator. They picked the draft order, and then we went one at a time. Every coach picked an athlete, then it went to the next one, and we just kind of went down that way and snaked back and forth until we filled all the slots that we had. So we had 20 athletes. It was 4 junior men, 4 junior women, 4 open men, 4 open women, and then 2 masters men, 2 masters women. So we just pick athletes until we had a full squad.
Well, I will confess that I put my name forward as a masters woman, and I was very flattered to have been picked, given that I think it's age 40, isn't it, and above?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm well over that. So obviously for me, I wasn't pulling the numbers. I think let's be really, really polite here. I think, but it was still fun to do.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad. I actually had you on our team twice. We had in season 1 and season 2. But yeah, no, honestly, like I knew in season 1 you did every single piece. And that's tough sometimes to get everybody to do it with schedules and all of that stuff. So having an entry every week, regardless of how fast you think you are, is a huge plus. So yeah, I was happy to draft you.
Well, we had a lot of fun, and personally, I was massively challenged by some of the workouts that we had this year. Now, let's meet some of the other team members from the Big South Outlaws, which was the name of the team. Firstly, Bianca, introduce yourself. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio, and now I live in basically Baltimore, Maryland.
And you're a rower from water rowing or gym rower or a bit of both?
Yeah, so I started rowing at Ohio State, and then so I was on the water, and then more recently been more into erg competitions.
That's really interesting. So why did you choose that sort of a transition?
After rowing in college, I took a break and I actually coached. I was a volunteer coach for Ohio State for a year, and then started in CrossFit. And funny enough, one of my friends from CrossFit, her husband was a rower, and he pulled me into all of the online rowing scene. So he was the one that told me I should do PRL this year, and has brought me into a bunch of other things like Crash Bees and Worlds.
Wow. Well, we were very, very glad to have you on the team. And now, Nick, you're new to the team this year. Is that right?
That's right.
And what's your background?
Well, I'm a career personal trainer, sports nutritionist. I own my own personal training studio called Prime Performance Training in Athens, Alabama. So I've been in the fitness and nutrition industry a long time, and I always try to lead by example, for everybody else. And I just come across rowing a couple of years ago. I've known about it for a long time, but I just so happened to get on the erg and just start practicing and taking off and doing different things. And the next thing you know, I come across concept, and one thing led to another. I've always been in great shape and I always took pride in all that, and very dedicated and loyal to the process. And one thing led to another, and here we are today. It's kind of amazing, really, all the doors that open up when you get into something. And I don't know what next week's going to hold, but I'm just excited to be here. And I just love it because it's very physical and demanding, so things in fitness like that just attract me really well. So I'm just thankful to be here.
Well, welcome to rowing. I think we're all clapping our hands. We were extremely glad that you were on our team. You've only been in rowing for 2 years, and you're already going to the Worlds, and you did the Crash Bees. Is that right?
No, I didn't do Crash Bees. I was in 2 world finals this year. I was in the Open men and the Masters men. Yeah. And yeah, it was definitely a good test. I will say that, especially being in 2 finals 30 minutes apart.
Oh.
Running the Open first and then the Masters 30 minutes later. But it was definitely.
Dare we ask what were your times in the 2 races?
In the Open, I finished 4th, and I ran a 1:13.1 and set a new American record. And then in the Masters, I won the silver at a 1:15.2.
Wow. Well, congratulations to you. And now welcome Ross, who also a member of the team. Ross, what's your background in rowing?
I don't really have a background in rowing on the water. I have a background on the erg, I guess. I was a competitive weightlifter, and from there, I found rowing through CrossFit. That was probably 2012 or so, and just kind of started doing that for exercise, and really enjoyed it, and kind of stuck with it from there.
It's really interesting, isn't it, how it kind of sucks you in, and it doesn't actually matter whether you're an on-water rower like me and Bianca, or you've come at it from another angle like the guys. There's something about rowing. Do you agree?
Yeah, I've played sports since I was 5 years old, and team sports mostly until I got done with football, and getting into weightlifting. Since it's an individual sport, I enjoyed that, and then finding rowing was a way for me to continue to compete with myself and with others at a high level, and my body's getting a little older, and there aren't a whole lot of ways for me to do that anymore. So I really enjoyed that through rowing.
It's the new challenge aspect. Now, I want to talk now about the actual races that people did. So personally, I can remember doing several different formats. Nick, what was your best race out of because it was 8 weeks, wasn't it, that we did?
Yeah. Yes. I guess I would have to go with the 500. That particular week when we ran the 500 piece, I set a world record at a 1:13.7, and I knew coming into that week that was my strongest piece, and I was really focused and determined on trying to get that. And of course, I always want to do good for the team. I've always been a team player, doing whatever I need to do to help the team. And I thought the 500 piece was the best fit for me.
Wow. And what sort of prep did you do especially for that, and knowing that you were going for the record as well? I mean, it's the first record you've ever had?
Yeah, yes, it is. Those are the first records I've had I did it during the PRL. That's correct. Yeah. So the strategy I used in the 500, which, me and Ross talk back and forth quite a bit, and he's very experienced with this stuff. So, we chat and, try to come up with good things to do to try to improve time. He's very knowledgeable at that. So a lot of stuff that I would do is I would just run a lot of intervals, 250-meter intervals, run like a 5 or 6 250s with like a 2-minute R, do that one day. Then the next day I would break it down to running hundreds. Mm-hmm. Just do consistent interval training, trying to lower the rest like each week by maybe 15 to 30 seconds to try to improve, But most of the short distance interval training in the 500-meter sprint, I found to work really well for me.
And Ross, are you also a 500 specialist?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I don't feel like I'm special at anything right now, but yeah, I at one time I had the world record in the 100-meter, the world record in the 1 minute, the American record in the 500, and then the world record in the 1,000-meter.
Wow, that's awesome. Chris, did you know this when you picked this man for the team?
I did a little bit. So I talked to CJ, and he's like, "You got to get Ross on the team." I was like, I know. But so everybody had to enter times, right? Like their 500 time and I think a 2K time. And Ross just put down fat and slow as his 2 times. So I didn't quite know why CJ was like, "You have to pick this guy." But yeah. So
very interesting. So Ross, this is reverse psychology, obviously.
Well, I had not rowed in 9 months. I hadn't touched the rower in 9 months, and I try to, especially with rowing, I try to motivate myself by maybe talking a little trash or kind of discredit myself a little bit, just to motivate me. I've been competing in sports since I was 5 years old, and I'll be 38 this year, and I'm having a hard time at this point kind of harnessing motivation for anything other than just talking some trash and getting out there and putting my body through it. So that kind of helps me from time to time.
I confess that I am obviously the polar opposite of you, because I was scrupulously honest in pointing out that this was my personal best at 2K, but I'd just like to point out it was quite a lot of years ago.
Yeah.
So, Bianca, can you recall a race that you particularly enjoyed from the season we've just done?
Yeah, I think probably my favorite race was the 1K, which even though I would say I do better at shorter distances, I was just really proud of myself for the 1K. I've never done a straight 1K because in college, anytime we would do a 1K, it was usually like 4x1K. So it's more so at your 2K pace. And I didn't really know what I was supposed to be pulling. So I was like, okay, I think if I go like 3:15, that would be pretty good for me. And my friend was like, no, you're going to go like 3:11, 3:12.
Oh,
and
up the grade.
I was like, I that seems like a bit of a stretch, but I'll go ahead and give it a go. So he wrote me out a plan. And sure enough, that's what I ended up doing. So I didn't think it was possible. And then I was able to prove myself wrong. So that was probably my favorite race.
A thumbs up to your friend who wrote the plan. Yeah. So it seems there's a bit of behind the scene teamwork here, Chris. Were you aware of all this?
I knew some of them had known each other and were talking about plans and what they wanted to do. And I think Ross and Nick and one of the other guys on the team are friends with some of the athletes on the other teams. So they were kind of, even if we weren't racing that team in particular, had a little bit of competition, which was super fun. But honestly, I think we put together a really good team, and I was pretty hands off with that, and let people do what they wanted and go fast and kind of throw down their best. Yeah.
So the way we had to do the races was we would get told at the beginning of the week what the distance or format was, and then we had to do them in our own time and submit just a screenshot into a shared drive folder. And the one that I particularly enjoyed was the 3 lots of 1 minute with 1 minute rest in between. Is that right? People remember this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
the format early on was a head-to-head against one other team. So as a Masters woman, I was matched against one of the other Masters women on the other team. And I vividly remember diving into Instagram to try and get the results that week, because I'd done an okay first one, and then I really nailed the second one, and I was really pleased. But then you're sitting there, and the rest you're thinking, oh shoot, my legs really hurt. These are tired legs, and then you're just hanging in there for the last one. And I'd worked out a couple of cunning strategies, like you needed to start the flywheel moving during the rest, so that when you took that first stroke of the next piece, it was ready rolling, and you got a much better score that way. Why didn't anyone tell me that? But anyway, if you haven't figured that out, I share this for free. And then the results came out, and I was against a woman who was clearly a lot stronger than me. And the first one, she set a new American record, and I was like, well, I'm obviously never going to beat that. And then she'd clearly really blown herself out, because I was 1 meter behind her in the second one. And I was like, if only I could have beaten you in at least one of the 3 pieces. Did you guys have any real head-to-heads like that?
What did you ask?
Did you have any real battles head-to-heads with another opponent during one of the rounds?
Yeah, for me personally, I feel like I was against the clock the whole way. I got I think the first week I got COVID, so it kind of knocked me down respiratory wise, and I felt like the rest of the competition was an uphill grind. I just didn't want to be hurtful to the team or slowing the team down. Nick and Bianca were definitely the 2 biggest stars of our team in terms of Chris had the luxury of putting them up against whoever he wanted, and they pretty much won every single week.
Yeah, it was definitely good. Chris, did you have to announce which athlete was your number 1, number 2, 3, 4?
Yeah, so that was every Friday morning when we submitted the times, we could put the athletes in whatever slot we wanted within their categories. So there's a little bit of strategy that went into that, and that was we were lucky enough that I think we had 3 or 4 people that were able to compete in both Open and Masters. And be competitive on both sides. So that gave us a little bit more flexibility to move people around and get a little bit creative, and hopefully not give a sort of pattern or strategy that we were doing week after week, and keep whoever we were racing sort of on their toes.
That's really interesting. So there's a whole load of new jeopardy there just inside each of the categories.
Yeah. Like Nick, we raced in both Masters and Open men. And depending on which team we were racing and what their strong suit was, we would kind of move Nick around, because he was kind of beating everybody we put him up against. So, yeah.
Nick, you beast. That's a compliment. It's an English joke. So, how many records, Chris, did the team pull home over the season?
Lot.
Yeah.
Bianca, did you get a record?
Yeah, I got a record each week. That was my goal.
Just clock us through the world as well as America.
I think it was an American record each week, except for the 100 meter was a world and American record.
Wow. And for you personally, are you heading on to bigger, shinier competitions?
I competed at Worlds last week and won the open 500 meter. So for now, that's it. I'm going to take a little rest, but I'll be back.
I love it when an athlete says, I'll be back. So, you know, Ross, obviously you're back on the wagon, having had your little break from rowing. What are your plans?
Well, I rowed yesterday, so that's a step in the right direction. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, right now I use rowing for exercise. The competition aspect of it kind of keeps me interested in it, you know. Talking to Nick and Cam Warham and Matt Stankiewicz and like all those guys, it motivates me to kind of try to think about maybe I can get back to where I once used to be to row against those guys. I'm not sure I have the dedication and the mindset right now, but I would like to. I would enjoy that. So. And
Nick, you've got a little secret to share with us about your future plans.
Yeah, I'm going to be jumping in a boat in July with Chris Leonard. So,
that's a big trust step there.
Yeah, we're going to see if I can get this 6'4", 275 in a single scull. So we'll see how that works out.
Chris, are you seriously starting this poor man in a single?
Yeah, why not? If I can find one that's big enough, yeah.
Cool.
And then we'll get Ross to drive up. He's only a couple hours, and then we'll put him in a double. He just sits there, shakes his head. But
with Bianca. No, that's a longer drive.
I'll drive down. I'll fly down.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll have a little Outlaws reunion in Dallas.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And Nick, Chris, what are the plans for next year? Do we think that this is going to be an ongoing feature of the rowing calendar?
I hope so. So we're in the coming months. I know, like in the US now, this is kind of championship season for all of the coaches and everything, with sprint racing starting up and nationals in June. And I think the plan is, from talking to Alex and CJ, he wants to get a bunch of us together and sort of discuss what we see the future of this being and get some input from the coaches as well as them. And I know the original plan was to kind of turn this into an on-water league, but I think everybody's having a lot of fun with the indoor stuff. So we'll see how it goes. But I know as of right now, the plan is to continue to grow this and turn it into something pretty cool.
Now, before we wrap up, the season finale was last week. What happened?
Do you want me to take this one?
You're the coach.
Sure. Yeah, it was. It was tough. We had a pretty good matchup, and it ended up going our way, which was awesome. And we ended up being the PRL champions, which was really, really cool and exciting. And just a huge testament to the athletes and how hard everybody's worked and really kind of pushed themselves and turned into team. I think I was kind of hoping we went undefeated, and then we had last week of the regular season, like everything that could go wrong ended up going wrong, and I think we had 6 people not able to compete. So it was good, and we were against a really, really tough team, but it went the way of the Outlaws, which was really, really fun.
I confess, the name of the team I think is just the best.
I love it. Yeah.
Guys, it's been a delight to see you in person. Obviously, I've been watching everybody's scores in secret over the season. And thank you so much for coming here on Rowing Chat. And I love the overlap with indoor rowing and on-water rowing. Personally, I think I need to take a few tips from Nick and Ross. I will never be as good as you, Bianca. Just trust me on that. I'll go in a boat with you.
Bianca, she kind of sets the bar high every week.
She set the bar very high every week. Nick.
Yeah,
You're
every week she's setting a record, so we got to perform.
Yeah. And of course, you're only making it harder for yourself, Bianca. I'd just like to point out.
Oh, there were multiple times I had to break my own record, but it was done.
Well,
I like a challenge.
Good for you. And I do think actually, Nick, what you're finding is this is the rower's mindset, and you obviously slotted straight in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just so thankful I found it, and I love to compete. And being part of the Big South Outlaws and all these great athletes, it really can't get no better. Super cool coach and Chris Leonard, and it's just an amazing experience, especially for my first year. So, I'm looking for great things in the future.
Well, thank you to everybody for the rowing chat, and until next time, bye-bye.